Welcome to another Wild About Watches video. This one I'm not going to show you watches as such, although we'll do a wristwatch check. We have the Rolex GMT Master 2 on the rubber B blue line strap. We're going to answer a question in this video. When will the Rolex Bubble burst? When exactly will the Rolex Bubble burst? Now, by the end of this video, I will give you an exact date. We don't do crystal balls here. Ooh, sounds a bit painful. Imagine carrying crystal balls around with you. That'd be painful, wouldn't it? Banging away down there. Is that your keys, sir? No, it's my crystal balls banging away. So we don't do crystal balls here. We do predictions inside mountain roller designs, tarps in the middle of Dartmoor. I don't see any sheep around at the moment. Maybe the farmer's taken all the sheep. Maybe the farmer's taken all the sheep in, or maybe they're being prepared for something nice and tasty. Oh, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? Poor things. Have you recently, in the last 6 months, year, couple of years or so, but certainly recently-ish, walked past a Rolex authorized dealer, looked in the window, looked in the store to see what watches they have on display there? Since I made this video, display watches have been seen in Rolex AD, so their windows don't look empty, but they are just display models. They're not there for you and I to actually purchase. So what can we see in a Rolex authorized dealer's shop window? Well, like I said, it's not a lot. It's some of the ladies' watches, some precious metal watches, maybe some with diamonds in them, might be readily available. Some of the two-tone ladies and gents watches. You won't find any sports watches in there at all. You won't even find the Rolex Explorer 2, the new one, the two-tone Explorer 2 in a shop window. Although with any luck, the two-tone, because it's not the most popular sports watch, you know, maybe you stand a chance of getting that one, you know, in 6 months or something like that. But I don't think even the two-tone Explorer 2, you're going to be walking in saying, oh, can I have such and such watch, and then walking out with it straight away. But I do think you probably have a reasonable chance of picking that watch up, you know, in many months' time, if you're patient. My understanding is that if you go back many years, quite a few years, a long time, everything was at one time or another available. You could go in at one time and buy a Submariner, you could buy a GMT Master, any Datejust that you wanted to get. Pretty much anything was available. The only watch to my understanding that's never been readily available is the GMT, was the Rolex Daytona. I believe in the very early years when it first came out, it was available readily, but it fairly quickly became one of the watches that had a waiting list even a very long time ago. Other than that, I think all watches have been, you know, fairly easy to obtain until the last, you know, handful of years or so. And now even Datejusts, the new Oyster Perpetual, pretty much anything and everything, you know, has become, you know, almost impossible to get hold of. Rolex are very, very happy with this situation. Why would they not be? They produce their watches, they go out the door, and they're sold almost immediately. What company on earth is not going to be happy that they're so popular that they're sold immediately? And forget all the naysayers, the haters and everything like that saying that Rolex is doomed for this. The complete opposite. Rolex most certainly is not doomed from this, and ignore the people who were saying they're not buying any more Rolex. Plenty of people are buying more Rolex. The people who are saying that nobody is buying more Rolex are the people who can't get one. So Rolex most certainly is not doomed. Their price point is more reachable these days. The average person probably only has to save up for a year or two, but we do have to remember that Rolex is a luxury brand. Now, granted, it's not a Vacheron or a Patek Philippe, either, you know, prestige-wise or price-wise, or indeed luxury-wise. So in order to control the market and to some degree control who buys their watches, what can Rolex do about that? Obviously they're putting their prices up fairly regularly, but of course the other thing that they can do, and which they are very successfully doing, is control supply. Now obviously Rolex isn't going to come out and say that we're happy with the situation, but I bet inside their boardrooms, I bet they're happy. And it certainly seems quite clear that Rolex does send out whatever they want to whomever they want within reason for their authorized dealers, and the authorized dealers certainly seem to get very little to absolutely no choice in what arrives at all. Again, quite clearly it is up to the authorized dealer to distribute those watches, and quite rightly too, because once the watches have left Rolex, it really should be up to the store to decide who they sell their timepieces to. It does seem from news and things like that that sadly there are some unscrupulous authorized dealers out there who do backdoor dealing and things like that, and Rolex does seem to be on that case and has shut some down, so that's a good thing. And very luckily there are many authorized dealers who are very good and don't force you to spend an absolute fortune like a drunken sailor and will take a liking to you, and from that some of us can do very well. At this moment in time, given the sheer demand for these watches, sticking to one authorized dealer, making a few purchases there, and basically just, you know, popping in, not literally making a nuisance of yourself, but just popping in, showing that you're around and interested, hopefully will go some way. I think the main tip is try to befriend them, and most definitely be friendly, because if you go in and you are unfriendly, complaining and criticizing, you're not going to get anything. Given that the bubble never burst yet, even in the pandemic, when the bug thing was, you know, was going around, prices didn't really drop very much. A lot of people weren't spending. You know, we weren't going on holidays. We weren't buying cars so much, we weren't buying extensions to the house so much, so we saved, or some people saved, some of us have wives who spend money, we saved a lot of money. So now, of course, we're looking for luxury goods and things like that, a bit of spare capital. I know, let's buy something that we can't actually get now. So, you know, so the demand for luxury goods, and especially Rolex, I think now is at its highest that it has ever been. And I don't think that will ever now drop, because Rolex now is, and always has been, clearly Rolex has always been popular, has always been very well known. But I think with social media, with the stories that come out in different programs and antiques roadshows and things like that, of some old Uncle Fred who bought a Rolex in the 1720s is now worth, you know, 100 million thousand pounds or something ridiculous like that. People are starting to get the idea that Rolex is kind of like a good investment. And we don't like to sort of talk about Rolex as an investment, but it kind of is, in that on most of the models you're not going to lose your money. Okay, you probably are better off putting your money into a proper investment fund, definitely, probably, most likely. But there are definitely some Rolex which probably do quite well. I mean, the Daytona, you know, is a £10,000 watch. I mean, this Daytona here, which I take camping with me occasionally, this is a £10,000 watch that you can buy from your authorised dealer if you can get hold of one. But I have seen them advertised for £35,000. Now, whether people are buying them, you know, are paying that for them, I'm not sure. Probably they are. Probably they are. If they're selling them for £35,000, they probably are selling them for figures close to that. So you could say that Rolex is a good investment in some regards. Will the bubble burst? When will the bubble burst? The date I'm now going to give you. Drum roll. The date the Rolex bubble will burst will be Anno Domini. Never. The bubble will never burst. It has never burst in the past, and it will never burst in the future. And I will guarantee that, and I will stake my tarp on it. Why would it? Why, how, why will it? The demand now is unprecedented. They're a charity. They don't need to make more watches. They're clearly not going to be building another 5 factories, and even if they did, I still don't think that would be enough to meet demand. Take it from me, you hear it here first. This is like brand new, spanking new news. Nobody else has ever predicted that the bubble will never burst, like 20 million other people have. I can guarantee you that if you buy your watch now, even grey market prices, you're probably not really going to lose on that watch. So even if you buy a grey market Rolex, you will probably just be renting it to yourself. And then when you sell it, you can claim your rent back. So even if you're looking for a grey market watch, you're probably just as well off getting it. And you probably won't lose much, if any, money. Sun shining. We've actually got some sun coming out now. It's been misty, all night mist. It's been misty most of the morning and raining. And now finally we've got some sun. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification button for more watch related content. Of course, just one other thing just to bear in mind briefly, and that is this. Check out Tudor. Tudor is owned by Rolex, so I think you would have a safe bet with Tudor. And if you are thinking about your money and things like that, as we tend to do these days, whilst Tudor won't hold its value, or of course, you know, increase in value so much like Rolex, my understanding is that Tudor will at least hold its own. So yes, you may lose a little bit, but probably not a huge amount if you were to buy a Tudor. Plus it's owned by Rolex, so you know, Tudor is definitely worth, you know, a little look-see. You know, if there is something in their catalogue that maybe you can actually, you know, walk in, buy, and buy, and walk out again with a watch in your pocket, or on your wrist. And of course, the other brand that's also probably worth you know, a look at is Omega. You know, they seem to be a very, very good brand, you know, as well. So certainly Omega is, you know, certainly worth a little look-see as well. It's a different company, of course. But, you know, Omega is certainly a very well-known, very respected brand. So they're definitely worth a look. And that way, of course, you might be able to not only get your watch in time for Christmas, but, you know, if you buy it at your Rolex authorized dealer, you know, when it comes to maybe if you still want to get another watch afterwards and it happens to be a Rolex, well, then you kind of like bought something there already. So, you know, it might help something else land in your pocket, you know, before 20,000 years have passed and the dinosaurs have walked past again. Anyway, it's just worth a thought anyway. Of course, Omega is not Rolex, and Tudor kind of isn't, but isn't Rolex. But you know, if you're looking for something else, then, you know, if you're looking for a watch and a good brand, then those two are certainly worth looking at.